What's going on, moms and dads? Welcome to the Fade You podcast, recording on Wednesday, August 16th. We are doing NFL Undervalued Teams Part 2 today, and we are so happy to be back with another Fade You pod and happier to be just closer and closer to football. So we got to thank everybody who is watching this on YouTube. I know a couple people confirmed with me today they were going to watch on YouTube, so we're going to watch for them in the comments. Matt here. I'm going to crack my beverage.
Word up.
Chris loves that. And we'll introduce the Fade You dads. Kmart's here. Chris Duke is here. Joe's back. Joe, we're super glad to have you back, Dad. How's it going?
Fantastic, man, but not as good as this kid that just got tattooed in the nuts right now on the Little League World Series.
So right before we hit record, Joe's watching the Little League World Series. So what happened to my man over there?
He just swung and tipped a ball, or the batter swung, tip, and it just nailed the catcher right in the balls. And he just dropped to his knees, and you're like, holy crap, he is dead. Sperm count shrinking in that kid, unless his nuts haven't dropped yet. Then he's good.
Christ. Chris, you're a big softball guy. You ever worry about that when you're playing softball? You're just taking one right to the boys?
A little bit. I feel bad for sometimes in this league I play in. They used to have a rule. It was an out if you went up the gut at the pitcher. This one doesn't have any of those rules. You can take one off, beam the pitcher off their leg, and it's still like a ball in play. So I'm always worried those pitchers are going to get one right up the gut. No chest gear, nothing.
It's brutal. Kmart, ever any danger of taking a nut shot in your years of playing sports?
Surprisingly, I've never taken a ball to the nuts. I mean, incidental, going through the lane in basketball for sure. I've probably dished them out a lot more than I've received. But I do remember one time in Little League, there was a really shitty throw at second, and I went to catch it, and somehow it just missed the heel of my glove, but I caught it between my legs just below my nutsack, and everyone's like, where's the ball? I was like, does this count since it's not moving? But they called it safe.
I was worried about it when I played hockey, both from a puck. I mean, obviously you're wearing a fucking cup. So from the puck, and then guys will also, because, these guys will play in these adult hockey leagues. They're out there to live their NHL fantasy, and they'll play all dirty and shit. And you guys know what a cup check is?
Of course.
It's a stick right down in the treasure chest right there. And
I cup check Chris every time I see him.
Not with a hockey stick, though. Fuck that.
Oh, no, that's just the loser quarterback. That's the Bosco special.
Anyways, hopefully, what team's he playing for, Joe?
He's playing for Wendy's right now. He's a fry cook.
All right. Well, we hope he's all right. We hope he can have children someday. But anyways, thanks for joining the Fade You podcast. Last week we did Undervalued NFL Teams Part 1. We talked about, trying to remember, Chris had Bears. Kmart had Steelers. And then we talked a little bit of Panthers and Titans at the end of last week's show. So if you didn't listen to last week's pod, go and check that out. We're going to add to our list of potential undervalued teams this week. And then we'll maybe shift gears a little bit on the next show. So let's jump in. Joe, you've missed the last couple of these. Who do you want to nominate for undervalued going into 2023?
I would like to nominate our favorite GIF, which is the Denver Broncos and that hilarious horse head GIF that we always post every time we bet on the Broncos. Yeah, dude, I think everybody's down on him. And this is what solidified my choice is I was watching that dipshit Colin Cowherd the other day, and he was ranking his top 5 most likely to implode NFL teams. Guess what was number 1? The Denver Broncos. Yes, there's the GIF, Chris. So I just think it's a huge bounce back year. Everything's in place. I mean, they were a decent team. They just couldn't fucking score last year. They had the 32nd ranked points per game, 32nd and third down percentage. Worst in team history, by the way. Most sacks in the NFL. Dude, they were just pathetic on offense. And they actually improved once Hackett got fired. Now you put Sean Payton in that role. I think he's going to dial some shit up. I think Russell's going to go back, maybe not like Pro Bowl, all pro form, but I think he's going to throw more than 16 touchdowns this year. And rumor has it he's slimmed down a little bit. He was like thick with 6 C's last season. He couldn't really move. And then also, if you look at like I was trying to think about like other teams that have changed coaches and improved immediately. Look at your 2016 Rams, Jeff Fisher, 4-12, 2017 McVay, 11-5. That's the kind of scenario I see here. Maybe not 11-5, but goddamn, Sean Payton can do it, and he's already done it once with New Orleans when he went 3-13. Next season went 10-6. So it's been done before by Sean Payton. I still believe that Russell Wilson is a top 7 quarterback in the NFL. 10. He's definitely top 10. I just think he's going to return to form, and I think they're going to go over 8.5. And I might do a Joey Cheese Yukon ladder, go over 9.5 or plus 180, over 10.5 or plus 300.
Wow. I'll be honest, when Joe shared in the group chat that he was going to do Denver, I was kind of surprised because I didn't think anybody was going to. I thought maybe Chris would touch them because Joe's right. Every single person on earth is down on them, and that's usually right in Chris's wheelhouse. What are your thoughts, Chris? I know you love that Broncos gif. That's probably your most sent gif if I had to put money on that. How do you feel about Joe's Denver Broncos here?
Because they've been so poopy the last year and 2
Horribly.
years. So they're always catching 13.5 at home against the Chiefs.
Against the Chiefs.
Yeah.
This year, the most they're catching is 6.5.
This year? Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like my team that I'm going to choose today has a similar, narrative like we like to do. Find a team that nobody's really touched on. Everybody's chalking up Russ's career, saying he's donezo, he's toast, especially after didn't he kind of look like shit again in that first preseason game? So
yeah,
Joe's riding that. Their D is always extremely decent,
tough at home.
Yeah. So, and then, you got to look like we like to look at the division they're in. I mean, can they steal one against the Chargers? Absolutely. Everybody can steal one against the Chargers. And then you got the Raiders are supposed to have a down year. So, yeah.
My whole thought process too was I think they're going to go 3-3 in their division. And then I looked at the other 11 games. They're favorites in 7, dogs in 4. And then I just went through and kind of looked at ones they should win. They should win 4-5. So if they can sneak out 1 or 2 more, that's the over. And you got to think like that defense played really well last season. The offense sucked cock. Like if they had a 15th ranked offense in the NFL, they're threatening for a playoff spot. It was that terrible. Defense, they were losing like 12-9, 11-10, shit like that. Come on.
What do you think, Kmart? They did add Mike McGlinchey from our Niners.
Yeah, screw them. I mean, that's only one of he and Jimmy are really the only pieces that left. But I mean, yeah, I agree with Joe. Like, honestly, when he said Denver, I had to think about it because I was like, are they an undervalued team? Because I don't know, I just feel high on them because I don't feel like Russell Wilson can possibly play that bad again. Defensively, they were one of the best in the league. And, I mean, pretty much like you said, offensively, if they can just do a little bit more, I mean, 8.5 seems, yeah, I think we should do the Joey Cheese special and just go over, I don't know, 10.5. Because, I mean, it's pretty good team, especially with Peyton at the helm now.
Now, what does scare me, though, is they lost their defensive coordinator. He went to another team, which is kind of scary, but they did sign Vance Joseph, which he's decent. I think he could get it done.
How humble of a human do you have to be fired from somewhere as their head coach and then go back there as a coordinator a few years later?
Whew. I think sure.
That's some swallowing your pride right there. Quick shout out, Jeff J. Buff in the YouTube comments, getting ready for his blackjack heater coming up in a couple nights. How late are we staying up with Buff at the blackjack table, boys? All night?
I mean, shit. I don't know. Till the sun comes up, I suppose.
Friday night, and Saturday, probably.
Yes, sir. And then shout out Dave in there too. Dave, you're also undervalued. We appreciate that. Broncos. So I was actually in Denver in June, and we did the stadium tour. We toured. What the hell is it called now? Invesco Field. Is that what is it called now?
No, is it Invesco QQQ
Fuck,
Field?
I was just
think it
fucking
is.
there. It's not Mile High. It's not Sports
Google it.
Authority. I don't know. Anyways, irregardless of what it's called,
Irregardless.
the stadium and the
Empower.
tour guide, Empower Field. That's
Empower
right.
Field.
So it's always funny when teams' own fans have no expectations, right? Like the tour guide he could not stop talking about how shitty they are and how bad last year was and how much everyone thinks they suck. I just want to what does the scenario look like where it doesn't go right? Like, is there a non-zero chance that Russ gets benched for Stidham if he sucks again? Like they actually paid Stidham as a backup.
Yeah, but the thing is, and Russ is still on his Seattle contract. The one he signed, it doesn't kick in until next year, so they're kind of stuck with him unless he gets hurt.
Absolutely stuck with him.
But Stidham was pretty decent last year against the Niners, and I think a lot of teams have. I think he was wanted by several teams, so there might be something there. But hopefully Russ stays healthy and Mr. Unlimited can pull his C out and win 9 games.
Oh God, Christ! I can't stop thinking about how they beat the Niners last year by playing a terrible game. And the Niners somehow played worse.
That was essentially the Broncos' entire season. That's exactly what it looked like. They would lose.
Game action.
Was it week 2 or 3 or some shit? It was really early, right?
Yeah, it was like 3 or 4, I think.
Because it was that oh man, you go into Mile High in September and it's going to be a tough game. And the Niners, it was a smelly line, and they somehow lost that game, even though Denver and the offense played terrible, 11-10 or some shit. Really low scoring, right?
It was horrendous. And I wish right now we could bet at Detroit Broncos +3. That makes my wiener feel funny.
Wow. What week is that?
It's like week 15 or 16. There's a couple other good ones. I like, I think, let's see here. Oh, Jets. They're 1-point underdogs at home.
Yeah. That's
Broncos all day, baby.
Yeah. Kelly was talking about having that one circled too. And now you've got, they're going to hype the shit out of that game with all the Peyton and Hackett, and everybody trolling Peyton on the Jets now. The no Gilligan hats and everything.
Dude, I loved Sean Payton pulling his cock out and talking mad shit about
shitting
Hackett.
all over Hackett.
Dude, just destroyed him. You never see that. And Sean Payton's just an old school cat, dude, and
he does not
lit
give
him
a
up.
fuck.
And I was like, that is fucking sick. So
what's the better bet, Joe? Is the better bet like the season win total over, or the play to make the playoffs?
Win total over, just because that division is going to be tough.
And you could theoretically go 10-7 and miss the playoffs in the AFC.
Yeah, for sure. It's super top. The AFC has a ton of good fucking teams, man. And like I said, I already broke it down. If Denver goes 3-3 in the division, I think they go over their win total. And I think that's very doable.
All right, so there's score one for the Denver Broncos. Are you laying it with them week 1 against those Raiders that nobody believes in?
Honestly, I'm thinking about it. That might make it in there. If it's 3.5, I'll be nervous, but also I think I'll do it.
They don't have Melvin Gordon.
What's that?
Didn't it jump up to 4.5 recently?
I saw it at 3.5 today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's get it.
4. Whatever. Lay it. Broncos
we'll see
suck.
If it makes it into Joe and Jared's 5. Let's get another team in there. Kmart, why don't you go next?
Oh boy, you guys ready for a rant? All right, so kind of going on the same premise, as last week. I was looking at second-year quarterbacks. And I just missed them last week, so I'm going to go with the Atlanta Falcons. So mainly Ritter's the pick here. He got into the starting role last season, I think in week 15. And, he had a decent passing DVOA, on the season. I think it was like 3%, but it was actually 9% after that first game in New Orleans. So, after he kind of settled, similar to what I said last week, with Pickett, there's a theme here. First start, jitters. Looking at Ritter, he definitely has a talent around him. The Falcons used their first round pick. We all know Bijan Robinson, who you can argue is the best running back. I still think it might be Jamar Gibbs, but it's argumentative out there. He's definitely a top talent.
You just love those Texas guys.
God, I know. Hey, you got to give credit where it's due. Guy should be dead, and after one of those hits, and somehow he got up and walked away. But Bijan has a skill set where they can potentially use him like CMC. He's a freak. He can play wide receiver. He's in a running back's body. Shit, he's in like in a linebacker's body, honestly. But they have Kyle Pitts, Drake London. They got a 1-2 punch there with now Robinson. So between Pitts, Robinson, they got Jonnu Smith. They still have Patterson. They still have Algier as well. The Falcons might be able to play, similar to the 49ers, in that positionless football where they can really move players in and out at the slot, the backfield, a lot of motion. And they're also working beyond a pretty legitimate offensive line. And they just drafted Matthew Bergeron out of Syracuse. Shout out Buff. So, now with full season under their belt as a starter, if Ritter can be like at least above average, in 2023, this offense could be pretty good because, their defense was pretty good at times last season. So I believe there's, a real possibility this team can win the division with the talent they acquired during the offseason. Not to mention, Matt, you had one of their rivals last week with the Panthers, topping it off with the Saints and Bucks, who all have question marks themselves. All four of these teams, this might be one of the worst divisions. All these teams are probably rated below average. We could make a case for all of them being an underrated team. So it's not like that surprising that Atlanta, can possibly win their division. Falcons also added their all-pro safety and Jesse Bates. They had a veteran, Casey Hayward Jr., Bud Dupree. They made a trade with the Lions. They received Jeff Okudah, and Okudah was pretty good last year. He's going to complement AJ Terrell, give them, two very good cover corners. They got a backup in Taylor Heineke, in case Ritter, just falls off a little bit. They also drafted Zach Harrison in the 3rd round, and he's going to be complemented by Calais Campbell, who's been one of the top defensive ends, in the last couple seasons. He's getting older now, but still a good mentor for him. Matt, I know you don't like this, but Falcons have the second easiest strength of schedule heading into the season. Win total set at 8.5. Feel like we got a theme here. So kind of similar, 10-7. I don't think it's crazy to think that they can do that within that division. 3-3. If they can somehow go 4-2, they're going to be set off, really well with that. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm going with. They have a pretty bright future. I was not big on them. Chris, you took money from me last year when they played the Niners. I didn't care about the 10 starters out. I was like, they're trash. Game was over in the first quarter. They just have a plethora of weapons on both sides of the ball, and I think they're going to be a good team for a while.
I do agree that you could definitely make the case for any of those teams in the division. I did one last week with the Panthers. I think it all comes down to Ritter, so it depends on what you think of him. Joe, how are you feeling about the Falcons?
I don't hate it. I like it more because the whole division's dog shit, like he said. But yeah, I don't hate it. I just don't really have an opinion, honestly. I don't really give a shit about them.
Chris?
I thought it was kind of high. Is it 8.5?
That's what I saw, unless I saw bad information.
Yeah, obviously the Saints are expected to be pretty good. Bucks are supposed to be bad, and Panthers just whatever. So, yeah, you steal steal a few extra wins. I mean, 9 and now with that 17th game, I mean, it's, 500 anymore. You're going to either be 8-9 or 9-8. So you got to get them to 9-8, and in a crazy NFC where people just seem to beat up on each other, especially down that division. How many fun games were there last year in that division? Remember that Panthers game? Oh,
where the dude got the unsportsmanlike and then they missed the PAT.
Oh yeah,
that was a freaking wild one.
That was on the Panthers. That was the Panthers guy, though, I think.
Yeah, he threw the bomb.
But one thing, though, I'm looking right now, it's 8.5 with like juice to the over at -144.
Well, I think a lot of people are expecting them to be good. Like, I wouldn't say it's trendy because I think people are making the case for all really not the Bucks, but the other teams I'm hearing people make cases for. And I just think it's a lot of faith in Ritter. Kyle, you're right. He got in late. Like, he made a couple. I think even the last game he played against Bucks backup.
I'm not comparing him to Mahomes, but it's similar. How under the tutelage of Alex Smith, then he got a spot start late in the season, so he got a couple more than that.
Yeah, but Ritter fucking had a piece of shit Mariota.
Yeah, but I'm saying he's kind of like him. It's just kind of funny. A similar quarterback who can move, get outside the pocket. They're not going to ask him to do much. I mean,
I don't think Ritter's
probably going to still hand the ball off 30 times. So as long as he can find Pitts and London.
Isn't Ritter kind of small, like undersized?
Thought he was.
What was he, a third round pick? So he probably doesn't have ideal size. It's not like he was a highly touted prospect or anything like that. He was decent college. I mean, that Cincinnati team was pretty fun. I'll say this about the Falcons. They did spend money. I mean, Kyle's right. They got Bates from Cincy. They had to open up the checkbook for him. I would be worried about them because they're weird because, like, Kyle's right. They have a lot of pieces and their offense could be really good. But if Ritter's not good, like, what if it becomes a shootout and he's going up against – I don't know who's on their schedule, but if they're playing another really good offense, like, is he gonna match a really good quarterback score for score? So I have no idea what to expect. Everybody's saying
ugly. They're gonna win games by ball control and playing defense, and by him not turning the ball over. They're not gonna win. I mean, they might win one game 40-30 something, but it's going to be fluky. It's probably a defensive score. Defense causes a bunch of turnovers that set up short fields. But no, like I'm not. This whole thing isn't an argument on Ritter being the savior for the Falcons. I just think he's going to be able to do enough.
He just needs to be
over a little hump. Yeah,
average, right? He just needs to not be terrible.
If he can be a little, like, if he can be a little above average, like, this team could be good. But if he's shit, then like 8.5, it's not going to come close to it.
Yeah. Okay.
I think I'd rather lean to like firing under 6.5 for like plus 300 than firing any kind of over on them. -145 is fucking ridiculous for that.
Yeah, and they got to win 9.
Heineke for a reason.
Everybody's saying the division's supposed to be dog shit. I think the games are going to be entertaining. Like, you guys brought up that crazy ass Panther. Wait, was it Panthers?
Yeah.
It's Panthers. Yeah. I mean, these are always a couple of these teams play indoors. You got the Bucks playing in Tampa. They're never going to have terrible weather.
And ripped his helmet off.
Yes. Yeah, it's nuts. So hopefully we get a few more of those. All right, Chris, are you going to give us some actual poop, or where are you going with yours?
Yeah, man, I don't have as much, detail as these two gentlemen. I'm just going to go with the same thing I did last time with the Bears, except this team won 4 games last year. One of them that absolutely gave Joe a broken heart against the Raiders when Mr. Interim coach took over. But yeah, they had a dog shit coach. They had a rough finish. I mean, they blew the biggest halftime lead in history and lose by 3 to the Vikings. And they had 5 one-score losses plus a tie in week 1.
Don't forget who they actually beat, Chris.
They beat
my game of the year. Remember? I was like,
I remember that.
What was it? 5.5.
Yes. And I was like,
it was after they got shut out, right?
Yes.
Didn't they get shut out the week before?
Yes.
And we got on the Sunday night recap pod and we said, snap call, auto bet Colts next week against the Chiefs. And they won outright.
Gave out Colts money line on the pod, and then they fucking win it. That was sick. I'm proud of that one.
And then
all right, Chris, make the case.
And then the week after they beat the Raiders, they go home as home dogs and almost beat the Philly, the team that went to the Super Bowl. So, I mean, you look at the numbers, they're middle of the road on O-line, middle of the road. I mean, they're like anywhere from 15 to 18 in both categories. So they're ho-hum there. But, I mean, you're getting a low win total. You're getting 6.5. So you're getting a team that can go 7-10 and you hit your bet. I don't like that it's a little bit juiced, but it just is kind of stinky because it's like, why is this team that a lot of people think, didn't get better, and they only won 4 games last year, and Vegas says, well, now they're going to win maybe 3 games more. So, and we don't know. The cool thing, like we said, we don't know if Richardson is a bust, at least like Joe said.
Here we go, Chris. Look at Indianapolis.
Hell yeah, Joe is just there. It's a badass.
Oh, man, that logo is so sick.
Here, I'll show the logo. Hold on.
Yeah, the old bucking Colt. So sick.
And the helmet like hanging off the fucking horse.
Yeah, the horse. And we all love Mr. fucking mustache Gardner Minshew. We know that he gives you at least.
He ain't playing. It's Trent Richardson.
I know. I'm saying if Richardson is dog shit, you've got at least an option to come.
Richardson's out of the league.
When he's dog shit.
Huh?
Not Trent Richardson. Other Richardson.
Anthony Richardson. Trent Richardson. Man, that's a good callback though.
Yeah, Trent. But and then I think they still have weapons. They have Kyle's boy Pittman that's going to catch 110 catches for 10 touchdowns, and
I hope so.
did that last year.
Might actually win fantasy football if he does that.
Nobody gives a fuck about your fantasy football.
In case you're wondering. And everyone probably thinks everyone hates the owner. I mean, I haven't heard anybody. We always say we like to talk about teams. I haven't heard one. I told you guys, VSiN was talking about this team might be one of the worst. They have a lot of games on their schedule where they're playing other teams that also have like 6, 7. They play Houston twice. They've got the Rams who are supposed to be down. They've got Carolina. New England only has a 7.5 win total. And they finish with Atlanta, Las Vegas, Houston. So I mean, they could go 2-1 those last 3. So like Joe said, you get you win a few in your division. Titans aren't supposed to be that good. Houston's down. Steal 1 from the Colts, hopefully in week 1, home doggy. I mean, from the Jags, and then you're in it and get to 7-10. So I'm gonna do it. Hold my nose. I know our boy Cheese is a Colts fan, and he says they're gonna blow, but I think that's the narrative. So give me the poop.
Well, we texted about it, Chris. You go from their last 1 year ago now, they're a dark horse to win the Super Bowl, right? And then every single thing goes wrong, and now they have one of the lowest win totals in the league. So is what they actually are somewhere in the middle? I guess we'll see. Kmart, you're a Colts guy. What do you think? Is there hope, or are they actually going to be scum?
Well, I'm a Colts guy by marriage because my brother-in-law is a big Colts fan. So I actually think we're going to go to Indianapolis for the Colts Saints game on October 29th, which really hurts me because it's also the same weekend where the Niners and Bengals play. But it'll be fun. Anyway, yeah, I mean, my brother-in-law is not high on them this year. I was talking, a couple weeks ago with them.
Shocker.
And, he was the one where he was telling me about their defensive issues. So I don't even think they're going to be middle of the pack. Like, I mean, I would be looking at like Richardson passing yards over.
The Forest, that's all I have to say.
Yeah, they're going to be passing a lot. Like, they're going to be behind and gate. Like, he and CJ Stroud, man, probably take those types of overs because, I mean, they're going to have to air it out because they're going to be playing from behind. At least the Texans have a good defense, but the Colts, offensive line, it's not what it was 2 years ago. So even if they have Jonathan Taylor, he's probably just going to break his ankle again because he had one good year and now he wants money.
So no one who even likes the Colts thinks they're going to be anything this year. Chris, that sounds perfect.
Yeah, that sounds like an over to me.
Yeah.
That's like the opposite of the Bears, right? Everyone thinks that they might be decent. All the fans.
I like their weapons on offense, but it's like, I mean, their defense, man. I think it could be.
Well, it
pretty
says they
quick.
had they had the 6th highest sack rate last year. I mean, that's pretty good if you're getting to the quarterback and shit. But
but they lost a lot of those guys that helped build that pressure. I mean, and you can't just think that sacks correlate with the defensive line. Like, they lost their corners. You can get covered sacks too. They lost their linebackers that blitz in. Like, all the twists and stunts that they can run, they don't have the same players. Like, that stat's meaningless this year, in my opinion.
They lost one of those corners because the dad just likes to degen. He's just like us.
A game or something.
Fan of parlays.
He just likes to fire 3-teamers. What's wrong with that?
One of us.
That's amazing.
That's another one too. That everybody talks about the AFC South and how shitty everybody's going to be outside of Jacksonville, and I just hope we get some crazy ass games between the Jags and the Colts and the Texans and the Colts, and I don't know. Titans Colts will be on a random ass Thursday at some point, and maybe that'll be a good game. I don't know. I think it's kind of a fun bet because you have no idea what Richardson's going to be. He might not be able to complete many passes. Or maybe he's
Trey Lance,
maybe
but
he's
better.
Fucking good. Oh God, it can't be worse than that.
Fields Part 2.
What if he's fucking good? That's the thing with these rookies. Like, you never know. Like, what if they light it up week 1 and beat Jacksonville, and everyone's like, oh fuck, like, this guy can play, and he's the most athletic fuck who's ever played quarterback at the combine. So, shoot, yeah. Who knows?
Isn't he older too?
I'm not sure.
I know Hendon Hooker's old, but
Hendon Hooker is, yeah.
I feel like Richardson is young.
You gotta love the corn-fed boys up there in Indiana.
All right. Anybody else we want to rapid fire on real quick? Buff asked about Chris. He was asking about your Rams last week. We didn't get to them. That's another. I made the case that there's a world out there where they might be the worst team in the league if everyone gets hurt again. Could you see?
I'm kind of high on the Rams.
Could you see them maybe being scrappy early? Like, once everyone's healthy and not hurt yet, like
week 1 best bet plus 5.5.
Dead number.
Probably won't land 5. Don't worry, never does.
No, I don't think a Sean McVay team that's healthy is going to be fucking the worst team in the league.
Yeah, I think McVay always has potential to win.
Everybody's so low on him right now too. So
yeah.
Fade the public.
I'm afraid of what Matt said last week, that they're going to tank for Caleb.
They ain't doing that. McVay's not doing that.
Team has ever tanked a season.
McVay is not going to fucking tank a season for the potential of getting Caleb.
Yeah, he doesn't seem the tank type, does he?
No, absolutely not. He'll fucking retire before he tanks.
He already talked about retiring after the Super Bowl.
I know. Listen to the Playmakers podcast. Shout out. That shit is badass. All he cares about is winning. There's no fucking chance in hell he's going to tank. He's going to try to win every fucking game.
I hope you're right. Matt scared me last week.
I just wonder if it starts going south. Like, all right, Stafford, we can shut it down. All right, Cooper Kupp, we can shut it down.
Why is Kmart
they could be
that?
They could be They could be scrappy and still lose. They had no fucking picks the last few years. Like, they got to restock at some point. I don't think they're going to lose on purpose, but they might not be good enough. Their whole fucking defense outside Aaron Donald is a bunch of 4th and 5th round picks that nobody knows if they can even play. They've lost everyone other than just the top heavy guys.
They were always a top-heavy team, but they're starting to rebuild already, trading that cocksucker Ramsey and stuff.
We'll see. I don't know. They could be decent. They could have a repeat of last year. I wouldn't bet on guys like Stafford to stay healthy. That's for sure.
Yeah, wasn't his arm kind of DED?
Yeah, capital letters DED.
Yeah, like dead arm.
So we'll see. Any other rapid fire ones that people want to shout out?
Fuck you, Chris. Bears under. They're going to suck again. Bears going to bear.
Bears going to bear.
All right, dads. Let's do next week. Let's do overvalued. We'll talk about overrated teams, and instead of looking for some of the poop in the middle of the pack teams, we'll try to poke holes in some of the ones that are expected to be good, and see if we can find a couple of hot unders. Dads have been good at that. What was
Bengals.
somebody
Jets.
was on. There you go. All right, so we'll get into overvalued teams next week. A couple of us are gonna have a good time in Vegas this weekend and hang out with some good friends. So for the dads, make sure you're following us on X at Fade U Sports. Subscribe to the pod. Got a couple more shows before the season kicks off. Chris, what happens sometimes when you bet on poop?
Well, you take the Royals, catching plus 180 at home. They're down 4-1, bases loaded. It's okay. It's not dead, but it's not looking good.
At least they're not getting no hit like your Nats last week.